Hey y'all. So today I want to talk about pushing. So if you have seen or if you have birthed your babies like this, then this video might be a little eye-opening for you. If you've never birthed a baby yet, then this is a great video to start with because this is how we get this kind of education out there. It's really good to be open to learning new and different ways to birth our babies instead of just going full on whatever doctor says I do, because there are some repercussions to birthing our babies in this bright lighting, surrounded by tons of people, breath holding, coached, athletic kind of pushing. So I want to go through pushing and some alternatives to how we can birth our babies in a more gentle, less stressful kind of way. So here's the thing about pushing or birthing your baby. It's vital that if you do not want to be in this lying on your back position with your knees pulled back and coached pushing, that you verbalize this to your doctor ahead of time. So I have found myself in situations with clients where we've talked about pushing together, and I've encouraged them to also chat with their doctor about position changes and things like that for the birth. And then we get into the birth room. We have talked about how we plan on birthing the baby. The doctor comes in, starts doing the coach type of pushing, and everything flies out the window. Patient does exactly as doctor says, and it's not the greatest experience. Now, this isn't specific to every doctor. Some of the newer ACOG guidelines just haven't made their way into the hospitals here, so it's not that these doctors are doing anything maliciously or trying to force this type of pushing. It's just that the education and then also the advocating for a different type of birthing experience is still kind of on the lower end here. So as we move forward towards this different type of birthing, which I firmly believe that we are, I think we'll see more change. But the only way to encourage that change is to encourage you guys to educate yourself, kind of do your own research, and then speak to your doctors about what you desire for your birthing experience. That being said, most doctors do coach a breath hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 10. Inhale, do it again with the knees pulled back or with you holding on to the bars to kind of pull yourself into a crunch position. So like I said, we talk about the birth experience beforehand with clients, and then everything kind of goes out the window when the doctor comes in and takes kind of control. And their presence and their authority can kind of be intimidating, especially in the moment, because you're trying to have a baby. So the last thing you want to do is have to try to advocate for yourself. So that's why I really encourage clients to have this conversation before they're in the moment. Because when you're in the moment, you're probably going to do whatever they're telling you because you want to get the baby out. So beforehand, it's vital that you share the environment in which you like to birth. It's vital that you tell your doctor, I want to birth with the lights low. I'm going to have music on, and I don't want you to coach my pushing. I just want you to come in and kind of guide me and catch the baby when needed, that kind of thing. So it's also important here to choose your practitioner or your provider properly. So if this is the kind of birthing experience you want, you're going to want to do your research and find a doctor who's a little bit more alternative, or go with a midwife, as opposed to trying to force your doctor to do something that they might not be comfortable with or they might not believe in. So being on the same page with your healthcare provider is definitely a big deal. And then also talking about this beforehand. So I want to just share some facts with you guys about the way that we are currently encouraging women to push. So when a woman is lying on her back, and just because she has an epidural does not mean that her back position is the only position she can push in. So keep that in mind. But when a woman is lying on her back and we pull her knees up and we tell her to bear down, yes, the pushes are more effective, but it's really not good for the pelvic floor. So many pelvic floor PTs are really pushing for this exhale type of birthing experience instead, or open glottis pushing, instead of a breath hold bearing down. The new ACOG guidelines state that it is better for women to push in a way that naturally comes to them as opposed to being coached to push, that their outcomes are better for their pelvic floor, that their experience, the health of the baby, all of it. So if we're telling women to hold their breath to push for a 10, 3 times in a row, guess who's also not getting as much oxygen? Baby. So that's another reason why if women are told to push in a way that feels good for them or just to do what comes natural, it's usually an open glottis push. So an open glottis push means that there's some type of sound or breath coming out. Instead of a hold, your glottis is open. So it could be a grunt, it could be an exhale, it could be some type of deep guttural noise as you birth the baby. And so this is for a few different reasons. We would naturally do this because if you hum out loud in a really high-pitched tone, so if we really, really high, you might feel your core, your pelvic floor lift. But if you hum really low, you'll feel it kind of barely kick on. It'll almost even possibly push down a little bit. So that relaxation of the pelvic floor tissue for a low guttural tone is what we would naturally do because it relaxes the perineum, it relaxes the pelvic floor so that the baby can come through. Going further, physiologically, it's also not the best position for these few reasons. One is that you typically wouldn't roll back and spread eagle for something as intimate as having a baby. You definitely wouldn't turn all the lights on and encourage 20-something people to watch you spread eagle to push your baby out. Birth is a really intimate thing. Making a baby is intimate and having a baby is intimate. The same hormones involved for making the baby are involved for getting the baby out. So dimmer lighting, nicer music, less people watching you, that is going to encourage a better response to the stressful situation. When we flip the lights on and a bunch of people run in and all of the things come out and it's a big production and there's doctors and nurses and everyone's geared up and there's 10 plus people in the room, that's going to encourage on a cellular level that stress response to kind of kick on. It's going to encourage your pelvic floor muscles to lift and kind of pull inward because there's a ton of people looking at you and the lights are bright and on and lots of things are happening, and it's going to take you out of your experience and push you into this production. Whereas if the lights are low at the beginning of your pushing process or through your birthing process, if the lights don't change, if the music is the same, if we've got essential oils going, if we limit the amount of people in the room, if everybody approaches this in a really sacred, quiet way, you're going to be able to have your baby quicker, more efficiently. It's going to be less stressful for you. So the environment that you choose to birth in is just as important as the position that you choose, as well as your doctor, because we want an environment that feels good for you, that is low stress, that is promoting that relaxation, because giving yourself into the contractions, giving yourself into the pain of labor and delivery, giving yourself into that power of the uterus to push the baby down, just to open and kind of release everything, is what's going to get the baby out in an efficient, proper way, as opposed to a forceful breath hold, bear down, push kind of thing. So some things to consider if you are not pregnant yet and maybe you're trying to conceive, or maybe you just found out you were pregnant and you have an idea of how you want your birth experience to go, then this is something to kind of talk about with your doctor. Lots of first or second time moms have the first experience, like I talked about, with the bright lights and the multiple people and all the things. And they will come to me and, choose a different way to have their baby. And they almost always say that it was so much better, because it is, because it's so much nicer. It just makes the whole experience so much less medical and technical, and just way more spiritual and life-giving and affirming, as opposed to something that's like being done to you. It's something that you are doing. So yeah, that's my spiel on the pushing thing. Like we talked about, if that woo-woo side of stuff, like that spiritual sacredness, doesn't resonate with you, that's fine. From a purely physical standpoint, back pushing and breath holding is not ideal. And I do encourage you also to print out these guidelines and show them to your doctor and talk through it. Like, you know, why are you, if they show little resistance to this type of pushing, I would show them the new information, show them what the studies have shown for pushing, and talk through it with them. If they're not supportive of how you want to have the baby, then find another doctor. It's never too late. I've had multiple clients switch at as late as 38 weeks to a different doctor. So it's not too late. This is your birthing experience. You shouldn't want other people to feel good about it. You need to feel good about it. You need to be on board with how you're going to birth your baby. In addition to that, and this is probably a different video for a different time, birth is sacred and spiritual. So our culture says it's not. Our culture looks at it as more medical because it's been kind of penetrated by Western medicine. But it truly is a sacred spiritual experience, and it should be treated like that. The birthing mother should be treated with all the respect and dignity and love and support as we can give her. She shouldn't be made to feel small, or she definitely shouldn't be forced into a position or a situation that makes her feel uncomfortable or very visible. So keep that in mind. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please leave any questions or comments below, and be sure to subscribe for more videos like this.